Microbe Sears.
We might as well stop her. She's
So we're at it. You know, we'll mold
You
it.
gotta interject more. So when he say, "How did we get married?" You have to talk about
right.
that because
Yeah, I know. But
Yeah,
you go
and
on
I'm
and on
glad-
so long, you
but
don't give me a
and
chance.
clear that up. How we got married? Because I'm interested. I'm interested to know how we got married. Okay, that's gonna be good for me because I'm learning stuff. It's good.
Well, first of all, we got to get to the marriage part. I ended up getting in some trouble, and I think it was probably 2009. Bought a stolen TV from a guy. Cops come, get the TV. A lot of stuff happened. I go to jail for the stolen TV, for buying a stolen TV. So when I'm in jail, I call her, and we're talking on the phone. This is while I'm locked up, and I asked her to marry me when I get out, and she agreed to it. And I kind of didn't think about it like that when I was asking, but when I got out, she reminded me of what I asked her, and like, she was on me.
Because I was like, when you asked me, no, I just want to say this because I kept asking you, are you sure? Because I was going to be with you if we didn't never get married. I never talked about marriage with you.
Right.
I never brought marriage up because I'm old school. I think that's something, if a guy want to marry you, he going to ask you. It's no need to talk about it. So we never talked about marriage. I was just like, I gotta die forever. In my mind, that's how I was. So when he asked, when he was in jail and got out, I was just like, are you really sure this is what you want to do? Because I'm going to be your girlfriend no matter what. And he was like, no, I'm sure. I'm like, but are you sure? Because I believe in marriage, so are you sure? He was like, yes. I was like, so as soon as he was like, yeah, I'm like, okay, give me your driver's license. I'm going to get the marriage license. So we get married within, I wanted, that's every girl's fantasy. So I was like, oh, before you change your mind, we get married.
Yeah, so I'm saying when we got married, it was a long journey from the start. I wasn't happy. So, it wasn't because I just wasn't actually ready. I didn't think about it while I was locked up. So when I got out, it was like you rushed it and then you made it happen. And I wasn't gonna say no, so it happened. But that's what made it such a long journey. After time went on, we learned to accept it, love each other, and be married. But then being a man probably messed up everything. We have 2 sons together, so you look back and now that they're older, we talk about it and a daughter, but she don't really talk to me like I would talk to them. I have to teach them what I did wrong so they don't do the same thing. So when I teach them what I did wrong, it's like, you learn this stuff on your own. So it was like really tough for me, and then it ended in a divorce. Me doing so much stuff. One day she just was tired of it. I would come home and at first it was 3 shoe boxes by the door. The next day it was like 10 of them. Then the clothes was by the door. And I'm like telling my friend, I think she put me out. Then she like, the papers come. This is like, it's getting real. We're actually going our separate ways. And it was tough. Over. I could feel it. When I knew the relationship was over, I could feel it. I would tell my best friend, I would tell him, I don't think she loved me no more like she used to. Like, I can feel it. And we just started going our separate ways, and we were still living in the same house at the time, and we wouldn't talk in the house. I would sleep on the couch. It was like stuff you see your grandparents do or stuff on TV, and it's starting to live like that. So I'm noticing like that it's really over.
But we were living like that before you realized that.
Right.
Your eyes became open. Your eyes became open so far too late.
me losing my wife meant like, to me, it was like I failed. I failed my kids. I failed everybody else in my family, my brothers and other people who look up to me. To let something like that happen, it was kind of tough. And until I accepted it, I couldn't properly start healing. So right now I'm taking it slow, and I think me and my ex being friends makes it easier. Like, we're not beefing or angry with each other, so it kind of makes it easier to put behind me.
You know, he will probably say I switched up on him or changed, but you have to change because everything that we were doing was always toxic. It was never, nothing was good the way we were operating because, again, we both broken homes, both came from toxic families. And although we wanted to give our kids everything we did not get, ever have, we adopted some of those toxic behaviors because we did not, unfortunately, have anybody to show us the right way. So just making sure, the level of respect is always there, whether you're on the phone, in person, especially in front of your kids, because when you're living apart, if he makes me upset, I'm in the house with the kids. So every vibe is thrown off. The kids, you know what I mean? My energy. I don't want to do no homework with you today. I don't even care about school because my mind, I don't know, if people say that they can be emotionally broken and still function, that is not true. There's no way you can be a great parent to your kids and you're not emotionally, mentally healthy. So. I still battle with setting healthy boundaries with Oscar. I do not know how to do that with Oscar. Oscar has been a very big deal in my life since I was in junior high school. I was 12 years old, falling in love with Oscar. I had to train myself to, first of all, I'm still in love with Oscar. I think I have not met any man in my life as of right now that I could say that would replace that love. You know what I mean? So I'm loving him as I've always loved him. So learning how to create healthy boundaries, I don't know how to do that because I don't know how to do what's best for me.
I can't really say because we're close friends. It's like we're still family. We live just in two separate houses. So it's like, with me, I just make sure everything is okay, make sure they're straight, call them every day, call her. So the boundaries are really not in place as far as us co-parenting.
What is something that I could do to create a healthy co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband? I will have to say I need to get emotionally healed because when we are talking, he says, "Oh, we're over it." And I'm like, it's easy for him to say that because it didn't happen to him. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with childhood child abuse, childhood sexual abuse, childhood abandonment, and then happen to have the person that you love since a child misuse you and abuse you, and then to know that's all I ever wanted. My success was to be a wife, a mother, and that was it. That was my calling. That was what I was here for, to be a wife and a great mother, and that was all. So he ruined my dream. So I have to come up with another dream. So what I can do to be an effective co-parent with him is to get help, like counseling for all of the hurt, because it's still in here. It is still very present. It is still like it can happen, like it happened yesterday. Whereas he's on to the next, and I'm like, You know, I tell him loving you scares me. Loving Oscar scares me.
What did hinder me from having a healthy co-parenting relationship was my feelings. I would tell anybody that when a relationship is over, you have to realize that it's over. You cannot pursue it and try to co-parent. It's not gonna work. If she like shoots you down when you try to talk to her or like get her back, it's just gonna mess up everything. You get mad, you don't wanna do stuff with the kids, and you have to learn to let that part go.
Happened to be, I worked at the front desk, so I knew where her room number was, and she never came to pick up her mail. She would leave her mail there for months and months and months, and it was this big box I would continue to trip over every day. So I said, it's Tasha, so I'll just walk it to her door. Maybe this will be a step in the right direction. When she would walk past the desk I worked at, she would walk by with her head down, so I couldn't even look her in the eyes. So I took this box to her room, and she opened the door, and that was the start of our relationship. She got my number from her best friend at the time, who was also a friend of mine, and she gave me a call to say thank you. And I asked her if I could continue to see her, and our conversations continued after that. So that was the start of our relationship. It started with her being negligent to her mail. Which she probably still does.
When we first met, I was like very shy and quiet, and I was honestly like not even looking to date somebody. So I came from a single parent home, a single mom, and she was very strict. So I had set all kind of boundaries when we first met each other. Like, he was not allowed to spend the night. And when we did cross that boundary, and I did let him spend the night like 3 months down the line.
She made me sleep on the floor for 6 months.
I specifically remember
so
that.
When we first started dating, I would come to her dorm room, and like she said, I could not stay the night. But I was still, you guys gotta understand, like for me, Tasha is someone who I dreamed and prayed about. And when she came, I was like, I know this is the person for me. And the fact that she wasn't 100% willing to give herself to me like that, I said, this is a sign that this is probably the person for me. And if she opens the door a little bit, I'm coming in.
I knew it was time to step away from the relationship when things became toxic. The arguing wouldn't stop. Things never got physical between us, but just the constant arguing with my kids in the house. That, for me, I didn't want my kids to grow up and then resent us later down the line. I didn't want them to think that we didn't love them or that we didn't love each other. So for me, I felt like I couldn't do it anymore.
I would agree. So I'm the type of person, like I said before, when I met Tasha, I made up in my mind, no matter what, it could be even detrimental to my own well-being, but I said I was going to stick around no matter what. So I'm happy to be with somebody who understands what's good for the both of us, even when sometimes I may not. So I was honestly very upset when Tasha wanted to separate, but when she explained it to me, the way that she explained it to me, it was settling. It said, look, before we would never argue in front of our kids. We would at least go to another room or drop the topic. But it had got to a point, like you mentioned, where it had got so toxic where it was impossible to not do it in front of the kids. So I would say Tasha didn't even give it more than maybe 5 times before she was like, okay, look. And she assured me, because she knew where my insecurities lied, and my insecurities lied around not having my family and not seeing my children. And what she did was she secured my insecurities by telling me that this doesn't change anything with the relationship that I'll have with you with these children. If you don't want to talk, that's fine with me. If it's healthier for you not to talk to me, that's fine with me. I would prefer that we continue to talk. I just can't live in this under the same roof with you. We need to separate. And then if it makes sense in the future, I'm not saying it will or it won't, then we'll reconnect. And that made me feel secure.
Our split, that's all I strived for, was putting our kids number one. And just from like talking to friends and family, I feel like that's where a lot of couples go wrong when they split up. They just take their anger out on the person they've split with, and I feel like that causes damage to the child. So for me, my biggest thing was not listening to friends and family. I had so many people in my ear after our split telling me how to handle things with him. You need to run down to the courts and hurry up and put him on child support, and just giving me all these ideas to be vindictive. So for me, I just kept in mind, keep the kids number one. I wanted the kids to know that we still love them even though we were splitting up and we were going to be in separate households. So one of the boundaries that we've established with co-parenting, I love how Sean says it, don't ask, don't tell. So we kind of have this policy like with dating, unless you're gonna date somebody and it turns into something serious, just do not have my kids around that person. And if you do decide to get serious with this other person or you see a future with them, I would like to at least meet them. I think another boundary that we've placed on our co-parenting relationship is to respect one another. And we've seen it from our family members into our friends, how things can get so ugly. We try to respect each other with our words, our time. I think communication is big, and if anything, that's probably the one thing that we do cross boundaries with, is our time. We can get frustrated with each other every now and then because living in two households, you have to combine your schedules and you have to work out a routine that works best for both of you. Healing from the separation for me involved seeing a therapist. Again, I couldn't lean on family and friends because I just didn't feel like they were giving me sound advice. So seeing a therapist, praying, I actively got involved in the church, and I honestly feel like the more I leaned into God, the more I found peace in our split. Because I just trusted in God, and I knew that whatever decision I made would be a sound decision from whatever I heard from God.
Tasha made it very clear. Boundaries weren't my thing. If it was up to me, I would have mixed boundaries, but it's not healthy. So again, we've become very familiar with what our strengths and weaknesses is, and Tasha, in a lot of ways, her strengths have been providing structure and a healthy environment for us to still be somewhat normal when it comes to our children. So some of the boundaries that she set, that we both set, because I have to adhere to them too, but were intimacy. We're not intimate. So when we're separated, we aren't intimate. I'm very emotional naturally, so I cry at movies and all of that. So if I'm intimate, we together. If we're being intimate, I'm in love, we getting married next week. And she knows that about me. So even like to kiss in the beginning, like I was a little bit upset because the way that I was raised is we were very affectionate. So when you leave the house, you say, I love you, you give a kiss. even if you're upset, regardless of who it is, your brother, your sister, your mother. So I tried to do those same things in my household, but for her, she understood, like, if she were to do that, to me, that's one foot closer to moving together, and it would happen all the time. So our intimacy on the front end was very, very non-existent. And another thing we had was the don't ask, don't tell policy. I couldn't handle on the front end. Now I can handle very well, but on the front end, I couldn't handle the idea of Tasha being with someone else. So I did want her to. I would tell her all the time, it's okay if you date it, but at the same time, if she did, I wouldn't react well to it. So what we came up together is, if you do choose to date someone, let's not talk about it unless it's something that's going to be serious and you're thinking about bringing the children around. And for me, that was a huge step in our growth, because what it allowed us to do was to respect one another and respect each other's privacy, and then at the same time understand that we still have a relationship. It's just not one that involves that type of communication. I started replaying back a lot of the things that Tasha and I had issues within the relationship, and I had an honest moment with myself, because to her, when we would argue about things, of course, the goal in my mind at that time was to always be right. But when you're alone and you're not with anyone anyway, you can't lie to yourself. It's unhealthy anyway. So one of the things Tasha and I always discussed, but we didn't get a good chance, or we didn't have the opportunity to do, or didn't see the importance in it at the time, was counseling. So for me, I've been in counseling, and I'm still in counseling to this day for the past 2 years. So once a week now, I meet with a therapist and I talk about whatever I need to talk about. And the best part of that is you have an unbiased party who don't have any stakes in the game. They don't love you like a mother, and they don't know about your feelings or what's going to be your pressure points. But from those sessions, I learned some really, really honest things about myself that I didn't ever consider. And what it did was it helped me change the way in which I interacted with Tasha, and she noticed right away, and she started to either be more vocal about how she felt with me, and then even at certain points started getting counseling as well. But counseling for me was huge. We didn't do it at all while we were together. But we always, for some reason, were honest about, you're better at the homework. Can you please, you have more patience? Can you just focus on that? And I always help with the homework. Whereas I say, you're good with this nurturing thing. My patience is short. I'm not about to baby them. Talk to your mom. And it's what it does too is it gives your children foundation to understand what parent would be best for this situation I'm in. And at the same time, they see you working together. So we would always be aware. My children don't play games like let me play my mom against my dad. We make decisions together, even if I don't agree. If it was something that she said, I maintain it. The hardest part is being in two different homes, but it doesn't have to be. The key to that is making sure you both agree, you're in communication, and you uphold whatever you put in place for your children. You're both saying the same thing, so your children can have a foundation still, although they don't stay under the same roof. Making sure that in times of high emotion, I like to say passionate. I'm very passionate about things. It's never an argument with me, but if I get riled up about something, you can feel it. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but like I'm really passionate about things. But what I can do to be a better parent is to make sure I'm very deliberate about not saying things in front of my children where they can sense the slightest disagreement between me and their mom. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. If she's late coming to get them and I have an appointment I got to do, or I'm supposed to be speaking with another business partner or something, I would say, oh, your mom is always late. This is the problem we had. And then my kids immediately, you notice right away, they'll look at you. And I'm like, oh no, I love your mom. Your mom's okay. I don't even want to have to correct. If in my mind I get to a place where I can just understand, like, this isn't a good time. Just say okay and go take a walk or something. I know we still have our difficulties. And the funny thing is, when she comes, she's like, I know you were fussing and cussing the whole time, but I brought you a coffee or something. Like, it always works like that. So we've known each other for 15 years. So I know the things that make her upset, and she knows the things that press my buttons. So we'll try to make sure we try not to push those buttons, but it happens. And when it does, it's important that our kids aren't connecting that or seeing that, because what it does is it gives them insecurity. Are my mom and dad gonna split? Do they love me? Do they love each other? Those are important things to kids. I'll be 100% honest, and I'm okay with this now. Before, I haven't always been. I'm okay knowing that I still love Tasha. I'm okay with that. It's been hard to say it out loud, but it's okay to still love the person who you had children with. What I think it validates is the fact that you made a good decision on who you had children with. Again, from my coworkers to my parents, my friends, they understand that the level of respect that I have for her and the amount of love that I have for her, I'll always have that, regardless of who I meet or where life goes. I'll always feel that way for her. When I had children with her, that's how I felt. And it's nothing that she could ever do. I tell her this all the time. You can do the worst thing to me, but I know that you wouldn't do that. And I know that these feelings are because of her reaction to me too. I learned love with her. That was the first person I ever dated. Then we went on to have children. We were engaged to be married. We didn't make it across the line, but in my mind, I always looked at us as being married. So would I try it again? Definitely. But right now, we both are old and wise enough to know that it would be with the right foundation and preparation. So not at this time, but do I keep the door open? Definitely.